There was once a war that started with an ear. Yes, a real human ear. A severed, rotting ear delivered to the British Parliament in a glass jar. This wasn't fiction. This was 18th century Europe, and it set the stage for one of the strangest wars in history. Let's rewind to 1731. The Atlantic waters between Britain and Spain were full of tension. Both empires were chasing power, profit, and territory, especially in the Americas and the Caribbean. Spain had been stopping and searching British ships, accusing them of smuggling. And then came Captain Robert Jenkins. He was a British merchant captain. On one such voyage, his ship was boarded by Spanish coast guards near the Caribbean. They accused him of illegal trading, and then they made an example of him. They cut off his left ear. One of the guards reportedly said, "Take this to your king. Tell him what happens to smugglers." And that's exactly what Jenkins did. Fast forward 7 years later, 1738. Jenkins appears before the British Parliament. He holds up his severed ear now, blackened with age, and tells his story. The chamber falls silent, and then erupts in rage. Some say it was pure political theater. Others say it was genuine outrage. Either way, Britain had what it needed: a reason for war. In 1739, Britain officially declared war on Spain. They called it the War of Jenkins Ear. But here's the twist: the war had almost nothing to do with Jenkins. It was about control of trade routes, colonial power, and national pride. The ear? That was just the match. The war played out mostly in the Caribbean and along the Spanish Main. It was brutal. British Admiral Edward Vernon captured the Spanish town of Portobello in Panama with just 6 ships, a stunning victory that thrilled the British public. They even named Portobello Road in London after it. But the war wasn't all triumph. The British later launched a massive attack on Cartagena de Indias in modern-day Colombia. It was one of the largest amphibious assaults in history at that time. Over 27,000 men. What happened? It was a disaster. Cartagena was heavily fortified, and the Spanish defenders, led by the brilliant Blas de Lezo, refused to surrender. Lezo himself was a war hero with 1 eye, 1 leg, and 1 good arm. They called him half-man, whole hero. In a stunning defense, Lezo and his forces held off the British siege. Thousands of British troops died not just from battle, but from yellow fever and tropical disease. The once proud invasion force collapsed, and so did the British appetite for war. The war dragged on, but lost public support. Eventually, it merged into a larger European conflict, the War of Austrian Succession. By the time peace was signed, Jenkins's name was barely remembered. And his ear? What was it all for? Lost to history. Thousands of lives lost, fortunes spent. And for what? A war remembered more for its name than its outcome. The War of Jenkins Ear may sound ridiculous, but beneath that strange name is a very real lesson about empire, about propaganda, and about how easily war can be sparked by pride and a story. This wasn't just a war over a body part. It was about national humiliation. Britain, a rising global power, wanted to assert its dominance on the seas. Spain, once mighty, was desperate to protect its American holdings and control over gold shipments. And Captain Jenkins? He was just a merchant caught in the middle. His severed ear became a symbol, not of justice, but of political convenience. Doesn't it feel familiar? A single event replayed, exaggerated, weaponized to justify violence. We've seen it throughout history. One incident becomes a rallying cry. One image becomes a reason for war. One voice becomes a tool for power. That's the power of narrative, and that's why we study these stories. Ironically, Admiral Vernon was celebrated as a hero back home, even though his greatest campaign failed. His name appeared on coins, songs, and even streets. But Blas de Lezo, the Spanish commander who won Cartagena, he was nearly forgotten, erased from Spanish history books for years, because he embarrassed the empire, even as he saved it. Truth doesn't always write the history. Sometimes, politics does. So, next time you hear a war story, ask yourself, what really caused it? Who benefited? And what truths were lost in the noise? Because history isn't just names and dates. It's power, it's propaganda, and it's pain. This wasn't just about one man's ear. It was about the empires who heard what they wanted to hear, and the lives that paid the price. History is full of strange stories like this, moments that sound absurd until you realize how real they were. If you want to explore more truths beneath the surface, subscribe to Echoes of Wisdom. Turn on notifications, because behind every strange headline, there's a deeper echo waiting to be heard.